This is the Channel 4 News. You're looking at live footage as firefighters attempt to extricate former national radio personality Stephanie Miller from her studio apartment in Pacoima. Miss Miller, still unmarried at age 60 and thought to weigh somewhere in the vicinity of 900 pounds, had to be pried from her 50-square-foot apartment with the jaws of life, then airlifted to County Hospital by the same helicopter used to transport elephants in the hit film Operation Dumbo Drop, starring Dennis Leary. Ms. Miller, who had been in declining health since her last failed attempt at rehab, her 25th attempt, where she shared a room with Robert Downey Jr. It has been a long, slow slide for Ms. Miller since the dismal failure of her late-night talk show in the early 90s. She subsequently had a disastrous return to radio, followed by infrequent appearances on the new Gong Show. Her last known employment was as an exotic dancer at the Itchy Kitty Club in Reseda. Neighbors are said to be planning to care for Ms. Miller's 27 dogs as soon as rescue workers manage to eliminate the unbelievable stench emanating from the apartment. Film at 11, if you can stomach it.
Okay. For some reason, the thing that's stuck in our head for 20 years is Operation Dumbo Drop, starring Dennis Leary. Live from Cancun, it is the Stephanie Miller Show. Just kidding. All right, now Ted Cruz is a bastard. He left his poodle Snowflake. He abandoned not only millions of freezing Texans, but he left his poodle Snowflake. And what did he He named the dog Snowflake to own the libs? Is that okay?
Uh-huh.
Wow. Now he is a bastard
Totally.
person. Now he's a bastard person, and all of Texas hates him and his ass face, including his good friends that were on a group text chain.
With Heidi.
I was just telling you guys, I'm on a text chain with, I don't know, it's like 8 or so of my best friends. That is hilarious. That his friends leaked the... They're like, you know what? I'm going to get on this plane to Cancun, but I'm going to Ted Cruz up before I go. I'm going to make sure I send this text. Yeah. That's hilarious.
I love that
their friends read it. Yeah, Heidi sounds like a piece of work.
It's freezing here. Who wants to go?
It's freezing. Who wants to go to the Ritz in Cancun? Yeah. Does this story just get worse by the hour? And he's already a seditious bastard that should have been, right? First of all, we're not done with that. He should be expelled or in prison for inciting insurrection. First of all, we haven't even gotten to that yet. What? Oh, is that Seth Rogen? Where's that tweet that I love? There's a lot of, by the way, there is not enough F-bombs about Ted Cruz. Let's start with Beto O'Rourke. Do we have that one?
Yeah, it's on a conference call last night.
What's that? Oh, yes, Beto O'Rourke.
And though we did not defeat Ted Cruz, and I apologize to everyone on this call for that is the worst.
That is indeed the worst. Indeed the worst. I don't know. I misplaced my Seth Rogen one. Hilarious. But he just said this mother. You thought sedition was the worst thing this mother was going to do. And you're like, oh, no. He's, oh, my God. And he just, lying Ted. It's the only thing Donald Trump ironically ever told the truth about is that Ted Cruz is a liar. And Donald Trump would know who's a liar and who's not. So the biggest liar in the world called the second biggest liar in the world a liar. We were like, all right. Yeah, he just kept lying and lying. So this was obviously... Okay. And it just gets worse in terms of, right? Oh, I did it. First of all, that is like the worst ever to blame your kids. Right?
Yeah. And he's still going with it.
Right. And here's an idea. How about you teach your kids to, in a crisis, you help other people instead of growing up to be rich little douchebags like your parents, right?
And
oh my God, it's such a tragedy. Can we get into the Ritz-Carlton in Cancun? Who wants to go?
We've stayed many times.
I also love that the people at the airline ratted him out too. Said no, he was originally booked to come back on Saturday. He wasn't booked to come back today.
Lindsey Graham was the one that said if you shot Ted Cruz to death in the Senate and the trial was in the Senate, no one would convict you, right? I mean, everyone hates Ted Cruz. I don't understand how he got elected. And by the way, all the conservatives, of course, are defending him because they will defend anything if it's a Republican, right? They're like, oh, well, what's he supposed to do? Right. Oh, I don't know. Beto O'Rourke's helping old people. He's on the phone doing outreach and going to houses and getting old people, heat and food and water. Like, what do you mean? What's he supposed to do? Like, okay.
AOC has gotten more aid to the people of Texas than Ted Cruz has.
Yes, Brian Tyler Cohen said the senator from Texas saw a crisis and escaped to the Ritz-Carlton in Cancun. Meanwhile, a congresswoman from New York, who that Texas senator regularly uses as a punching bag, just raised $1 million for Texans. One party works for you, the other party works for themselves. He's just one other awful example of what has become an awful, awful party. Martin, and you've been behind this cause, obviously, as well as a million. You've been arrested more times than that troublemaker Jane Fonda.
Oh my God,
your TV wife. But Martin, I mean, I was saying to Nadia, and isn't it really stunning when you think about the fact that these brave Russians are in the streets trying to, throw out their dictator. There was rioting here to install a dictator. These Capitol riots here, right? Were to keep a dictator in power.
Yeah. I'm sorry?
Yeah, but I mean, the irony of that, right? That in Russia, I said to Nadia, we just, overthrew our dictator. I wish you luck in overthrowing yours. But I mean...
would that they had a fair election. It would have happened a very long time ago, as Malcolm could testify.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it really is. But that is real bravery. Right, Martin? Yeah, I mean, I'm not denigrating your 1,000 arrests and all that, but you are Martin Sheen. I'm sure you were treated very tenderly.
Occasionally, yeah.
But, we missed brunch for our protesting here in the United States, right, Malcolm? Yeah. But, I mean, these protesters are risking, including Nadia, being killed. I mean, she already did, right?
Yeah, there's no question about it. I think with these last protest, supporting Navalny, they were risking their lives. There's no question about it. And the cops are going out of their way, beating people, and they're doing it right up on camera. They know the cameras are there. They just don't give a damn. Yeah. They're saying if you have a public voice, we're going to silence it. If we have to knock all your teeth out and bash your brains in, that's what they're doing.
Yeah. And Malcolm, as a terrorism expert, this has obviously been an enormous domestic terrorist attack on our soil, on our capital. And, we just had Chairman Yarmuth, and we were saying if anything would be bipartisan, right? You both were attacked. They were going to hang Mike Pence and Nancy Pelosi, right? But it just, I mean, you were talking about even some on the far left, our friend Glenn Greenwald, you said again reveals why he's the right wing's favorite faux liberal apologist. He claims all the stories about Capitol Hill insurrection attackers carrying zip ties were fake news. I'm like, what? We saw them on tape, right?
Well, don't believe us. Don't believe your lying eyes. Right. You would think that it would be a matter of national patriotism and trying to defend the nation. But that's where things have devolved thus. In Trump trying to be the first American, he was the first American autocrat president. And it was a close thing. We almost came very, very within a hair's breadth of losing democracy. And now we see that they're quintupling down on that. Lindsey Graham saying that the highest priority is taking back the House so that they can impeach Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
They just said that this morning. I mean, we now have, the fight to defend American democracy and spread our message we've been spreading for 200 years around the world, that the American experiment is not just an experiment, that it is a true fact that must be guarded at all times. And Nadia and the other singers in Pussy Riot, they really are Victor Laszlo of our period. They're trying to reach out to people who yearn for democracy. And the one thing that Vladimir Putin, ex-KGB, ex-communist, really hates is the very fact that American democracy is now apparently resurgent. And we all have to start right now, not only to keep it in our country, but to aid other people in their countries.
Yeah. Martin, your boss, Janet Sheen, said she wanted you and me and Malcolm to be on together because that would really scare Putin. And I'm sure he's like, oh, the girl with the fart jokes? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's going to... I will step down now. but, you know, Malcolm makes a point that, you know, talking about impeaching Kamala Harris. This headline, Fox News host floats impeachment for Nancy Pelosi over her role in the Capitol attack. I mean,
yes,
this
I suspected her from the very beginning.
Nothing gets by you, Martin. But I mean, even this, they're going to, right, go ahead. But even this, they're going to try to flip the script that somehow this is, they tried to blame, there's a percentage of Republicans that blame Joe Biden for the Capitol attack. I mean,
well, in a way, he was responsible because he got elected.
Yes, darn him. Right.
That was his first step, you know.
Right.
You know, this has been going on for a very long time, and it's like a running, what do you call it, reality TV, you know, for you know, the last 5 years. And it's such a hit that they've got to keep it going. So they have all these different scenarios. And when it got really clear that DJ was going to get whooped, it started to enter the script. Well, what if he loses, you know? How does that play out? He said, well, we'll have a coup, you know, and that's exactly what he did. You know, he started, you know, with the post office, and he flat out said, you know, we got to get rid of the ballots. I mean, he's quoted as saying that. Yeah. And he meant it. You know, if we could get rid of the ballots, why, we'll have it made. And he would have. Yeah. But people woke up to that reality and changed the script again. And then he started planning very late in the summer that it would be a coup, and that he had enough support that he could succeed. There's no joke about it. Yeah, it was a coup.
Must be how you felt when the, you know, West Wing was finally over. You're like, oh, I can finally shop at the supermarket without being hassled. And then you're like, oh, Netflix. Now they won't let me alone. Now the prescription drugs. And okay, so now I love this. You're playing J. Edgar Hoover, which I just find hilarious. In Judas,
wait, what?
Judas and the Black Messiah, which is what we call Malcolm. It is in theaters.
Have you all seen it?
No, it's in theaters and HBO Max.
You haven't seen it?
I have not seen
yet.
it.
It comes out this week.
Yeah,
but I have a very tiny part. I play the worst cracker who ever had a public life, J. Edgar Hoover. And one scene.
Did you say cracker?
Yes, he did.
Did you say the worst cracker? Is that what you said?
J. Edgar Hoover was the worst cracker that ever had a public life. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, I thought you did. Yes, you said I played one of the worst villains imaginable and who had a different public persona, but personally he was a wretched man. He destroyed a lot of lives, including a lot of black lives, and I wasn't very happy playing him. I did everything I could not to play him. How much? First of all, we need to know how much money did they have to give you, and secondly, it was. But you said because of the people involved, the director, etc. Right?
Yeah, Shaka King, a young director, very committed, extraordinary man, and he made an uncompromising movie. You guys got to see it. Okay. And the two guys
can't wait to see it.
That played the guy that plays Fred. It's a story of Fred Hampton, the young Black Panther leader in Chicago. Yeah. Who was murdered at age 21. They were so terrified of this guy, he was going to become the next Black Messiah, because we just lost Reverend King a few months prior, and they were going to make sure there was not a Reverend King or a Malcolm X. Yeah. And this guy was the combination of the two, really. He was socially committed, and he was all in for representing the Black community, and they saw it coming, and they nipped it in the bud. And his spirit is very much alive. But the movie is so uncompromising on every level. It's very, very powerful.
Well, and, speaking of which, I'm
proud to be in it. I'm just not proud to have played that.
Martin, Martin, that's why they call it acting. Okay.
Yeah, I
know. No, I can only watch you in so many things because you are the best actor in the world. And I told Janet that I happened to, here was my insomnia movie the other night, was, I think it's called Almost Love, with you and Jennifer Aniston and Aaron Eckhart. You play his father-in-law. Really? Yeah. And you had me.
okay.
You had me. I'm in quarantine lockdown. I'm very tightly wound as it is, and you had me in tears. The scene with you.
It's your own fault.
The scene with you and Aaron Eckhart when he's crying, and you had me crying so hard. And then in the last scene, when the parrot that you hated comes home, and you have a conversation with the parrot all the way into your front door, you just keep saying hello to each other. That had me laughing so hard. Then I peed the bed after I cried. So I hope you're happy.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying it was better than Allison Janney's bird work in I, Tanya, but it was really very fine bird acting that you did.
All right.
Thank you. So, Martin, Malcolm, I know you guys are friends, and so, the Nadia and the Pussy Riot and all that stuff has been a cause, but you are so passionate about so many causes, which you don't need to be, Martin, on top of your incredible career torturing me emotionally. But what drew you to that particular cause, to what's happening in Russia right now?
Well, I have been, I think I was born an activist, but both of my parents were immigrants. I came from a very large family. And my father worked in a factory most of his life, and there was no union. So that said it all. We realized that you have to fight for what is right and what is morally right. It wasn't just that it's a fair deal, it's morally right. And I grew up with that. And I started caddying at a very exclusive private club in Ohio. And I saw very clearly how those guys lived, and none of them inspired me. I did not want to be like one of them. I had nothing against them. I worked for them and saw them with their hair down. And when I was 14, I started a caddy union, and it lasted about 72 hours, and I was fired. And later they called me back because I was that good at caddy. I'd started caddying when I was 9. So I hate to admit how long ago that was, but it was 1949.
Bagger Vance.
I started the union in 1954. So it was second nature to me. It's just which side are you on? It was very clear, from the time I started walking around and saw how things were different in where I grew up and where I worked.
It could be considered a training device, a somewhat masochistic child training device. Okay. So Ellie, I said I had to have you on this week because you're a bomb thrower like me, but B, you also have a fancy Harvard law degree. So I've calmed down about witnesses, and I understand legally. But you talked about it. You made some good points, obviously, on TV and on Twitter. You said the point of witnesses was not to change Republican minds. Christ, the point of impeachment was not to change Republican minds. Republican minds cannot be changed. And you just said we would have called witnesses against Barack Obama, but it was Valentine's Day, is something no Republican would ever say. And so, yes, it's the optics of Democrats back down, right?
It's the whole point of impeachment was the show. Right. They were never going to convict because you can never convince Republicans of anything. So yes, the point was to expose the Republicans, to embarrass Republicans, to make it as hard as possible for Republicans to act like Republicans. And that's where witnesses would have been useful. There's also just the issue of and I feel like this is a fundamental kind of problem with the Democratic Party and liberals in general. It's like we want to fight in the headspace of Lindsey Graham, right? We want to fight out of that paper bag to convince a Republican. That's never going to happen.
Yeah.
Republicans are unconvincible. We should never waste time. Look, if I only did what Republicans thought I could or could not do, I wouldn't have a law degree. I'd be shining shoes at Grand Central, right? If I lived in the Republican headspace.
Yeah.
I don't care what Republicans think. That's how I live my life. It's how the Democrats should live their party.
Yeah. Well, but your piece in The Nation, as usual, went right to it. Republicans won't convict Trump because they won't convict themselves. The Republican senators who will be asked to judge Trump are guilty of the very same high crime for which the former president has been impeached. And of course, a terrific historical analogy. You said asking people like Graham, Hawley, Cruz to convict Trump is a little like asking Robert E. Lee to convict Jefferson Davis for treason. They're all part of the same insurrection. Thank you. So, right.
They're complicit. I mean, and not. I don't just mean that kind of theoretically. Like most of the Republicans endorsed the very same violence that Trump endorsed. I don't just mean that they endorsed the big lie, because of course they did that. Yeah. But like time and time again during Trump's presidency, he would do something that would encourage people to violence, and Republicans, Congresspeople, and senators would clap and say yay. Right? They would go to the rallies. They would give him a hug. They would try to fire up the crowd in their own way. I mentioned in that Nation piece that you referenced how the incident that the House managers used of those people trying to drive the Biden-Harris bus off the road as one of the inciting events for Trump. Marco Rubio also endorsed that attack.
Cheered it on.
The day after they tried to drive the bus off the road, Rubio was out there saying, "We love those people." Like it's two sides of the same coin. Trump is the figurehead leader on their white domestic terrorist movement, but so many of them are a part of it.
Well, and that's why first of all, Stacey Plaskett, I need a moment. Oh, so fabulous. Okay. But she, what she said it best, we didn't need more witnesses. We needed more Republican spines. I mean, they did don't you think as a lawyer, they really did do an amazing job. It is not to take away from the job the House managers did. And our ire should be directed at these cowardly Republicans. Because as a lawyer, the witnesses went cold. They wouldn't have cooperated. They might have stalled for months like Don McGahn has, right? I mean,
Although, I mean, look, this is where nuance is required, and I'm not great at nuance, so
right.
I apologize in advance. Yes, the House managers put on a great case. If you were looking for a great legal argument for why Trump should be convicted of impeachment, the House managers gave you that. But again, part of the optics of witnesses here, like Stacey Plaskett, who was brilliant, who was a revelation, who was amazing. Tell me the time that Plaskett has prosecuted a case where she didn't call live witnesses.
Yeah.
Where she had the option of live testimony and didn't take it. There is no prosecutor on the planet who would go for reading a deposition or go for video evidence over live testimony, because every person knows that live testimony is the most compelling. It's not often the most accurate, but it's the most compelling testimony.
Yeah.
When you say like, oh yeah, they would have delayed for months. Sure, if you tried to call McCarthy, he would have made it, but there were witnesses willing to testify.
Yeah,
including some of the cops. Like for instance, one of the points in the trial that really bothered me was weirdly at the end when they had the unanimous Senate vote to give Eugene Goodman a medal.
Yeah,
that's great. I'm glad he got a medal. Put him on the stand.
Yeah.
Let me hear what he had to say.
Why did he have to be a hero? Tell us why you had to. Right. Yeah.
Let Eugene Goodman sit there and tell the senators what those people were saying to him, because I'm sure they were saying some words that aren't great, that are not safe for work, and tell me in whose name they were saying it. To, put him on the stand and let him testify in his own words what happened that day. Again, was that going to change Lindsey Graham's mind? No. Lindsey Graham is an inveterate hypocrite and racist.
Look, is it anticlimactic to say the magical rockin' congresswoman from the great state of Illinois is here? Representative Jan Schakowsky, one of our personal favorites. This is the thing. I hate to, I am partisan, Congresswoman, but we're just better than they are. I can't imagine you in a blizzard in Chicago going, what tropical paradise could I book myself in at the Ritz. I mean,
Cancun cruise. Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah,
it's not good.
I mean, it's, again, you are somewhere that deals with extreme weather events all the time, and it's just that they don't seem to have the basic sense that people in government or at government should do anything for people in need. It's sort of a through line, isn't it?
Well, I also heard one of his colleagues saying, well, there's really nothing he could do. Are you kidding me? He could go out and pass out food. He could have brought water to people's homes. They don't think of that.
Yeah.
He's too highfalutin for that kind of thing, and flying off as only rich people can do. It's disgusting that he couldn't think of anything he could do to help.
Yeah, and then blamed his kids and left his poodle. Don't get me started. Okay. So, I mean, and the other thing, Representative, is you're obviously working on COVID relief in Congress. So now we have a crisis within a larger crisis. We're in a whenever pandemic, right? So first of all, he shouldn't be flying, and certainly not for pleasure and taking. So there's that in the middle of all of this. So, and there you guys are, Republicans blocking, as usual. They've been blocking COVID relief for how long? You tweeted, I'm encouraged by the Biden-Harris administration's work to improve vaccine distribution and crush the COVID-19 crisis. That is a positive, right? The obviously level of vaccinations we're getting done.
It's better, but I want to tell you, we're getting calls all the time of people who can't figure out how to get in the queue in order to get the vaccine. So I have to say the rollout of the distribution has not been fabulous. So we're working to try and help people. I was trying to help a 92-year-old Holocaust survivor woman to get in line, and she couldn't do it. So finally we were able to help with that. By the way, that's the kind of thing Ted Cruz could do. Help to get the vaccine to people who are really in need of that. But
by the way, that is a really good point about older people that are not good online. And because and let me just say, if I were still in Chicago, I would be one of your elderly constituents that does not. Seriously, I'll tell you the story. I just had to submit a claim to my insurance, and I actually called them, and I'm like, I can't do it online. Can I mail it in the post office? And I did. I couldn't. But you're right. That getting in the queue, you need to be on. There's a lot of people at a certain age that are not good figuring out stuff online. So that actually is a huge thing.
And even people online, they've got all kinds of devices lined up and waiting till midnight to make the call. It is getting better, I have to say, but this has been really frustrating. And these are the calls I'm getting into my office.
Let me let's listen to Speaker Pelosi, because obviously I want to ask you about the big issue about schools reopening and teachers being vaccinated. Here's Speaker Pelosi.
I think teachers should be vaccinated. I don't know that they must be vaccinated before going in. We're very proud of what's in our bill when it comes to education, because this is where we're saying that we want the children to be in school.
Well, that's the other thing, is schools need help, right? Not just with ventilation and spacing and all of that. I mean, I agree with the president and vice president that teachers need to be a priority. What is the legality, Congresswoman, of, I mean, they can't really order the states to vaccinate teachers, right? I mean, about half the states are prioritizing teachers, but I agree. We need to somehow get them to the top of the list. What do you think?
We almost had a teacher strike here in Chicago, and one of the issues was that the teachers, I think rightfully, are afraid. I was a Chicago public school teacher at the beginning of my career.
I know.
That they were just afraid to go to school, and it seems reasonable to ask that either they don't have to go and they continue to teach remotely, or they get a vaccine if they're going to go into the schools. Doesn't seem like too much to ask.
Yeah. So obviously, and there's a lot more in the COVID bill, and it seems like, I mean, good for you guys, by the way, doing this through reconciliation, because didn't we learn this? How many times did you and I talk during ACA and all that, where we just negotiate, we water down, we take out public option, all the stuff we want, and then they don't vote for it anyway. And now we've lost months and months, and we don't have months to lose now, right?
You're exactly right. The Republicans offered an alternative. Instead of $1.9 trillion, they said, how about something around $600 billion? Really, I know these numbers sound huge, billion, trillion, but in order to really help Americans who are suffering so desperately and to pull out of this pandemic, we're going to have to spend real money. And when we put money in people's pockets, they will go out and spend it. And that's what's going to bring our economy back.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is not the case for tax cuts for the rich, you know. So, by the way, speaking of other good work, as a village full of gays here, we thank you for your advocacy as always. You co-sponsored the Equality Act again this Congress. Look forward to finally getting it passed into law. The Equality Act guarantees non-discrimination protections for LGBTQ people in employment, housing, education, access to credit, public accommodations, federal funding, and jury service. So thank you, A. And B.
Well, I'm so happy too, as the proud mother of a transgender young man. I am really thrilled that the world is more hospitable to him now. And of course, Joe Biden on the first day did have an executive order that there cannot be discrimination against LGBTQ people. But this now it'll be into law. I'm thrilled.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Here's another priority, because you're always working on the good stuff, Congresswoman. You tweeted, for weeks, my constituents have gone days, even weeks, without mail. We must have a Postmaster General that puts the American people first. I'm proud to join my colleagues in sending a letter to POTUS to fill the vacancies on the Board of Governors. I mean, I know he's got a lot to do, and I honestly think they're doing great a month in. But you're absolutely right. That's the way to do it. You've got to replace the Board of Governors, and then they can replace DeJoy, right?
Get rid of DeJoy, yeah. Who deliberately sabotaged the Postal Service. It's just hideous what he has done. But this is life and death also. People don't think about it. If you're a senior citizen or anybody that gets your medication by mail and it is held up and it's not coming for a week or two, we even heard about a month not receiving mail.
Yeah.
This can be life-threatening.
My mom's 98. She's going blind. She's going deaf. She gets her hearing aid stuff. She gets her eye drops through the mail. I mean, there's everybody. You're right. Millions and millions of people. I mean, that's a great point.